Good day, everyone. Hello, I hope you're all well. I hope you all had a lovely Easter. If you are similar to our household, we've got an avalanche of chocolate. Literally, my daughter opened the cupboard and a million Easter eggs came out, so that's fun. So we're all feeling quite full. I'm just trying to sort the glare out on my face because I'm quite glary. Now today, you've all had a lovely Easter, you've eaten loads of chocolate, and now you need to do something crafty and make something beautiful, I feel, right? That's what we're going to do today. If any of you came to my plant pot session, I don't know if any of you did my plant pot painting session, this will be quite similar, but it's a bit of a twist because today we're doing hand-painted plates. So the kind of rules are quite similar. If you did the plant pot session, we're using similar material because we're using terracotta. We're going to paint it with similar things and we're going to draw on it with similar things. And we're also going to add some glitter to it if you so wish, which we did with our Frida Kahlo pots last time. But this is just a little bit different because it's a flat surface. It means there's lots of different things you can do with it. So you might be able to see on the screen here that we've got some different options of things we can do. Now, I'm a kind of illustrator by trade, so I do a lot of quirky drawings and pictures, and so what I'm going to show you is how easy it is to do very simple pictures, quite childlike, but they look quite effective, so they're really easy to do, and you can use them for anything really. You can do what you like with them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a terracotta plate. Now, who is doing this with me as we go this morning, or are we all watching and then having a go later? Usually you kind of have a watch and then have a little go later. If that's the case, then I can give you some tips on where to get your plates from because they're cheaper in different places. Basically, terracotta plant pots and plates are much cheaper than getting any other type of plate or pot, which is why I started doing them really. It was just the cheapest option. And because they're designed to be outside, and I think terracotta is quite easy to make, that's why it's the cheapest. But it's really lovely to paint on. It's really lovely to draw on. It's a really smooth surface. So that's why I use terracotta. If you go to your local garden centre, you will find that this stuff is cheaper than going to B&Q or Homebase. However, B&Q and Homebase are still much cheaper than buying anything else from anywhere else. So this plate I've got here is, what is the width of this? I think these little babies here are about 10 centimetres in diameter. So these ones I think are about 14 centimetres. And these little guys that are 10 centimetres you can get for about £1. And I think these ones are about £1.50 to £2 each. If you go to a local garden centre, then this stuff will be cheaper than B&Q. B&Q, you're probably looking at, this is probably going to be £1.50 and this is probably going to be £2.50. So you kind of averages are maybe like £1 difference. So it depends where you want to go. I don't know if it's maybe you guys can tell me, but there's a garden centre near me and it's called Cherry Lane. And I think Cherry Lane might be a brand of garden centres. Their terracotta is very cheap. And later on, when I tell you how to protect these little guys, the spray varnish that you can buy from a Cherry Lane garden centre is exceptionally cheap compared to anywhere else. But I'll tell you about that later. So the first thing that we're going to do is we need to paint our base. So I've got a few different plates here. I'm going to move these little example pieces out of the way. And we're going to start painting our plate. So I've got my terracotta plate here and I've got some different paints to show you. So I would personally go with an acrylic. Acrylic is super easy to use, really easy to get hold of, dries really nicely, and it doesn't weather too much. I've got these ones. So these are called Liquitex. These are really fancy paints. This is a soft body acrylic, which basically means it's quite, what's the word? It's not too gloopy. It's quite runny, but it's quite pigmented, which means the paint goes on. You don't have to use as many layers. You don't have to buy this. This is very fancy stuff. So this is the kind of stuff I'm using all the time. You can use any kind of acrylic. The cheapest is probably sort of Daler Rowney stuff, which you can get from the Works or Hobbycraft. So acrylic is your best. If you want to go even better, if you're really lucky, if you ever go into like B&Q or Homebase, and they sometimes sell, you know, your little tester pots of a like paint that you use for painting walls. Sometimes they'll have a sale on those and they're like 10p or 20p a pot. If you can get your hand on a load of them, then you're winning, because that stuff is really good to use and it's like 10p a pot. So tester pots of emulsion are really good. If you have any emulsion in your garage and you've got some nice bright colours left over, then that stuff works really well as well. It dries really quickly, the coverage is really good, and also it doesn't weather. So they're my two options. I would go with an acrylic. You can go as cheap as you like, but the cheaper you go, the more layers you might have to paint on, because the pigment might not be quite so strong. And then your emulsion is also really great. But I'm going to use these fancy ones today, just so I can show you what I plan on doing. So I'm going to be really naughty and just stick the paintbrush in the pot, because I don't have time to be pouring it out. You guys might be really fancy and get yourself a bit of cling film. I can show you what I've done here. It's very lazy of me not to do this, but if you stick some cling film on a plate or bowl, then it makes a really nice palette for your paints and you don't have to spend any money, and you can throw it away when you're done. It's also got a little heart on it for some reason. But I'm just going to stick my paintbrush in the pot. What I would recommend with paintbrushes, I quite like these guys. They're quite straight with a straight edge. They go on quite nicely. But whatever your preference is with painting, it's totally up to you. You can use any paintbrush you like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the whole of this area, and then I'm going to paint the edge here. But then, just for a bit of difference, I'm going to change the colour that I paint here. And you'll see afterwards why that's quite fun, because we can decorate the edges as well. So I'm just going to dip my paintbrush in, and I'm going to start giving this a paint. And I'm going for a nice light blue here. But I have done a couple of example plates that I'm going to decorate today, so that we don't have to literally watch paint dry, because I don't think you came here today to watch paint dry. No one's here for that, I don't think. So I'm just getting as much coverage as I can. What I would say is, I don't know if you can see this. In fact, I'm just going to change the blind again so we can see a bit more. Oh, lovely bright light. So we don't want any lines left over on our plate. So we're making it as smooth as possible. We don't want any grooves or blobby bits, because it will make it much harder to draw on when it's dry. So we're trying to make it as smooth as possible. And that's why I quite like these straight edged paintbrushes, because they're quite good for flattening the paint. So you're just going to keep going over until it's nice and smooth. Now you can probably tell that you can kind of see the terracotta shining through there. So this is going to need 2 layers at least. But the great thing about, the better you are at flattening all of this paint, the quicker it will dry and the quicker you can get a second layer on it. So you can see I've not had to use too much paint here. I've only dipped my paint in maybe twice into the pot. This is the other good thing about terracotta, because it's nice and smooth. You're not having to fill in loads of little holes or anything. So I'm just going to go around the edge here. Okay, so we've got our first layer there. And then again, this is why this sort of paintbrush is useful, because now I'm going to do these edges here, and I want to make a nice straight line. I don't want to make my life difficult for myself. So I'm going to go along, and I'm going to try and keep it as straight as possible, but I'm going to go kind of just over the groove, so that when I do my second colour, it's really easy to do. And I'm going as straight as I possibly can. And I'm kind of using my hand a little bit like one of those cake turntables. I'm kind of shimmying my hand around. What you'll maybe find is that when you're holding your plate like this, you'll get an achy hand, because you've got to stretch your fingers right out. It's a little bit easier to do if you've got a smaller plate. But if you can do it nice and quick, if you can keep this lovely straight line, which you can do with one of these flat brushes. I'm just going super quick, look at that, all the way around. Again, I'm going to make sure there's no grooves or blobby bits of paint. I want it nice and smooth. So I'm going to be checking that top bit as I go to make sure there's, see, we've got a bit of a groove there. And then we're just going to finish off this edge here. There we go. Make sure it's all nice and straight. Perfect. So we've got our first layer on and we've got the lovely edge here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set this to one side so I can show you some of the stuff. And then hopefully this will have dried enough to show you the edge at the bottom. But I'm not going to worry too much about getting double coverage because I've got my other examples down here, which I'm going to draw on to show you. So I'm going to put this to one side and move my paintbrush out of the way. I'll just pop it on there very carefully. So the next thing we want to do is we want to think about what we want to draw on our plates. So I'm just going to give you 3 really simple options. These options, because like I say, my illustration is quite simple and quite childlike, you can adapt that however you like. I'll show you how I would do it. What's also nice about it, because it's quite simplistic, is you can also encourage children to do it. So this is something you could do with kids. It's a really nice activity to do with them. It's quite a cheap activity if you're just buying a plate each. And they don't have to do the paint if they don't want, if you don't want to make it too messy. But I'm going to show you a few different options anyway. I'm going to move these pens out of the way. These are the pens we're going to use to decorate with. But what I'm going to show you first, I've basically got a couple of bits of plain paper. They don't have to be fancy in any way. And this is so that we can practice our design before we put it on the plate, just in case we're feeling a little bit scared, because it is quite scary to go straight in with drawing onto the plate. That's quite scary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my plate, and the key here is to draw around the bottom of the plate. If we were to turn it upside down and draw around the bigger side, then your design will probably be bigger than the bit in the middle, if that makes sense. Don't worry too much, we're just using it as a guide, but I would try and do it so it's the same size as what you're going to draw. Now, this is going to be very interesting because I'm going to draw around this with a black Sharpie so that you can see what I'm doing. So if I go wrong, it's going to be really obvious. So apologies if none of this works. But what I would recommend for you guys to do is do it in pencil. If you're doing pencil, then there's no pressure, there's no tension. You can rub it out if you get it wrong. You can do it as many times as you like. The only reason I'm doing it with pen is so that the camera picks up the image better. Because if I did it with pencil, it might be quite light. And if you're watching it on a smaller screen, I want you to be able to see it. So I'm going to draw around the bottom of my plate with a big black Sharpie. Hopefully I won't get it on the plate. I probably will, but it's okay because I'm just doing it to show you guys. So I'm going to draw around my plate. And it doesn't matter if the circle is not neat because we're not using it. You see, look how wobbly that is. But that's okay because we're not doing it. This isn't permanent. This is just for us to design on. So I'm going to move my plate out of the way. I'm running out of space because this room's so full of art supplies. And we're going to think about what designs we might do. So the 3 options I'm going to show you are hearts, stars, and suns. They're really, really easy. And the great thing about those shapes is you can add features to them, which just brings them to life and makes them loads more fun. So I'll start with a heart. So the first thing I'm going to do, so this is the tricky bit because what I like to do with my plates is put some writing on them. This is great because it means you can personalize them. So if you were doing them for somebody, you could write their name on it. Or if you wanted to write a funny quote or just some simple thing, I've just written love is love is love is love is love because it's a lovely big love heart. So the difficulty here is to make sure that the image that you're drawing doesn't fill the circle because you want to leave some space to be able to write around the edge. So that's the trickiest bit. And also you want it to sit central to the circle. It will be really obvious if that doesn't sit in the middle because it's a circle. So symmetry is key here. No pressure. So I'm going to draw a heart now. I'm going to I'm going to move it to this angle so my head doesn't get in the way of the camera. But this is how I tend to do it. So I'll maybe sort of think about where I might fit my writing, and I might start. So if I put a dot here, you probably can't see that. Let's just make that a bit bigger. You can see if that is the point of the heart, then you know you're going to have loads of room around the edge to do some writing. And then I'm very carefully going to attempt to draw a heart. So this middle bit here is going to sit central to the dot, so we know it's going to be all in the middle. And then I'm going to try and replicate that. Oh, it's scary, isn't it? Whew. There we go. I think that's bang on, isn't it? So we've got our heart. That's the hardest bit done now. We've got the shape. There's loads of space to fit around the edge, and the heart is big enough to get some features in there. So the next thing I'm going to do is give it a lovely face. Now you can copy this exactly if you so wish, or you can make up your own face. You might have your own way of drawing eyes and noses and mouths, but I'm going to show you how I do it in case you need some inspiration. So all my eyes must have eyelashes on them. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to start with the eyes, and I'm going to kind of sit them about here, I reckon. So I tend to do little ovals like this. And again, because the idea is that they're quite simplistic and childlike, they don't have to be fancy. I'm going to give them some big eyelashes. I'm going to do 4 on each. Lovely. And then oh, I've gone out of focus there. There we go. And then I like to do a big straight line for a nose, stick that in the middle, dead simple. And then a great big smiley face. Always a big smiley face. Now, the other reason I want you to think of this quite simplified and childlike is because it will make it much easier to use these pens, because these are quite thick pens. You want them to stand out. So you don't want to put too much detail on there. The joy of these is the simplicity of them. It's the bright colours, it's the patterns, it's the big, lovely, bright shapes. So it doesn't have to be fancy. We're not doing watercolours. We're doing big, bold, blocky colours. So we've got our little face. We might want to give it, I don't know, give them some little cheeks like this. You might want to do some eyebrows. But all these little bits here are the sort of things you might have to add in afterwards. So you've got to bear that in mind. You could give them some little arms if you wanted. I might give this guy some little arms, give them some little wavy arms, but don't let them encroach on the area where you might be writing. Again, really, really simple. So we've got our little love heart there. Now we can write something around the edge. Now you could write a lovely quote. I think today I'll just write Rosie and Ramona, because that's my business name, and it's also the name of Ramona is my daughter. I do have another daughter, but I started the business before I had her. It makes me feel quite guilty. So one day I might have to change the business name again and add a Lola in there. But for now, just to keep it simple, because you want to think about what's going to fit either side. So you've got 2 halves of this circle now, I guess. We're going to fit some writing here, and we can fit some writing here. So Rosie and Ramona would fit nicely. And the writing is a really good thing to do in pencil on a piece of paper first, because you can space it out properly. If you get the spacing wrong, you can then rub it out and try again, so that when you come to doing the plate, you know roughly what the spacing is going to be like and where the letters are going to go. So I'm going to hope for the best here, because I'm doing this in a big bold pen. So I want to try and make sure that I'm fitting it all the way around. Now, I don't know if you noticed this as I was talking, but I started moving the paper as I was going. The reason I do that is so that each letter sits straight around the circle. If I tried to keep the paper straight the whole time, then things might get a bit wobbly. So I'm going to follow the circle around. The other thing I like to do, which is one of my kind of trademarks, is to mix up capital letters and lowercase. I think that looks quite fun. So I've done a lowercase I, but then I've done an uppercase E. That's just another way of mixing it up. So I've got Rosie, and then I'm going to leave a nice big gap here so that the and ends level to the r, if that makes sense. So we're going to go no. I have to say everything phonetically now because I've got a 5-year-old who's learning to read and write. So you can see that spacing is not quite right, because this D finishes a little bit higher than this R, and I want it to be down here somewhere. So because I've done it in pen, I can't really change that. I mean, I can maybe move things along a little bit just to help myself out. But because you guys are going to do it in pencil, it means you're going to be able to change it so that these sit nicely. And then I'm going to finish with the Ramona. Hopefully this will be nice and, oh yeah, this is going to sit nicely. Perfect. So we've got our Rosie and Ramona. And so that's our design. And so we're going to use that to fill one of the plates. But I'm just going to show you very quickly a couple of other designs. So if I move that out of the way, I'm going to draw around my plate again. Hopefully I don't ruin the plate in the process. Oh, that's a very wobbly circle. My goodness me. Wow. Never mind. Not a problem. This is just for our example. So the next one I'm going to show you is a sunshine. So sunshine, I'm going to do a circle in the middle. But again, I need to remember I want to be able to fit writing around the edge, and this guy's going to have some spiky sun rays all the way around. Again, super, super simple. You got to remember that you're going to be drawing this onto the plate with some of these special marker pens. And I'm going to do the same face. So I'm going to do my ovals for eyes, big eyelashes, nice big nose, and a big smile. So you've got to think about this, like I said, about the block colours. The reason I'm trying to make each feature big and bold is because you want to imagine that each of these is going to be a different colour. So you can see here we have got, you've got the purple of the heart, you've got an orange nose, red mouth, lighter red hearts, and then you've got the eyes as different colours as well. So everything stands out nicely. And we'll come to this in a minute, but what we'll try and do is make sure that all of those colours are contrasting so that they stand out. So this sun's looking good to me. I might write something around the edge. So you might put, oh, I know what I'm going to put. I did this the other day on one of my paintings. I'm going to put, I'm a ray of sunshine, because I am. So you might, the other way that you can kind of do the writing, it sounds crazy, but you can kind of do it in your head a little bit. So I sometimes will look at the plate and sort of go, I am A-R-A-Y. So I've started there and it's ended there. So I need to shift it up a bit. So I know that the I maybe needs to sit here. And then because you've almost plotted it in your brain, you can then kind of know that when you write it down, it's going to fit a bit better. So I'm going to put my I there. You see I've moved the paper to make sure that it's all sitting. Ray. So that fits pretty much. That's not too bad. I'm a ray. And then we're going to do of sunshine. So I might go O-F-S-U-N-S-H-I-N. Yeah, that's about right. So you know if it finishes there, you maybe want to start halfway along here. So O-F, and then we're going to write sunshine. And again, you don't have to do fancy writing for this. That's not too bad. I'm a ray of sunshine. Lovely jubbly. And what you can also do is if you're writing one at the top and a bit at the bottom, and if there's like not enough of a gap in between, is you can just do a little dot or little hearts to break it up. So your eye line reads that bit and then reads that bit. So there's your sunshine. Lovely. Does anyone have any questions so far? I think I'm kind of explaining it okay. It will all hopefully become more clear when I start to draw on the plate. So I'm doing one last circle and I'm going to show you one last design, and I'm basically going to copy this guy here, which is a shooting star. So this is a bit of fun. This one's a bit trickier because it goes off the plate. So it requires a little bit more kind of hand-eye coordination when you're drawing the lines up the side of the plate. But again, it's super, super simple, really easy to do. So I'm going to basically draw a star, but I'm going to do lots and lots of points on it. And it's going to go in the middle again, so we have lots of space to write round the edge. There we go. And then the same rules apply. He's going to have a lovely little face, lovely big oval eyes. I think for this one I've done some big eyebrows, so maybe I'll do that now. So this is really easy. You do one line across and one line down. And then we might colour that in and make that a block colour. And then a great big smile. And then you could do some little cheeks like that. Do some eyelashes. And because this is the experimenting part, this is where you're practicing your shapes, you might find different things you like doing differently. And there's no pressure here because you're using your pencil. It doesn't matter if you go wrong. You're going to feel so much more confident when you get to drawing on your plate because you know what you're doing. You know how the shapes feel when you draw them. And for the shooting stars, what I tend to do is find a point maybe halfway up the star, and I just draw a line in that direction, or whichever direction you want really, and then you're just using the points of the stars to follow. So it's a very sort of simplified shooting star, but it is a shooting star. But the reason I'm doing it so simply like that is because you colour all these different bits in different contrasting colours, and it will really stand out. So you've got all this space here to do some writing. So you could put something like "You're a star." So YOUREASTAR. So we are going to have to start quite far around here. I'm moving the paper as I go. You're and then I might do an exclamation mark on that one. So it doesn't matter with the shooting star because you're going off the edge here. It doesn't matter if this sits at one side because it doesn't need to be central. So that looks quite nice there. Lovely. Okay, so we've got our designs. We've got our heart. We've got our sun. And we've got our shooting star. I will take the first answer that comes to me. Which design would you like me to do on a plate? Star, heart, or sun? Fastest wins. And I don't mind which it is. So you can have sun, star, or heart. Any takers, or I'll decide for myself. Sun. Oh, we got one. Sun. Okay, we're going to do the sun. Thank you, Sue. That was very quick. Well done. Okay, so we're going to do the sun. I am going to actually ask another question now. So again, let's look fastest first. These pre-painted ones I can do. So do we want the sun on the purple plate or do we want the sun on the pink plate? Oh, we got two suns, so it's definitely a sun all the way. On purple or pink, which is it going to be? Ooh, the tension. I can't take it. It's too much. Purple or pink for sun? Purple! We've got a purple. Wonderful. That would have been my choice too. Thanks, guys. Wonderful. So we're going to do a sun on a purple plate. Oh, we got three purples in a row. Amazing. Well, that's a clear winner then, isn't it? I don't feel bad at all. So let me just get my sunshine design so that I don't get it wrong. So we've got the sunshine design and we've got our plate. So we know what we're doing now. Easy peasy. So there's a couple of things I want to show you. First of all, the actual presentation of the sun on the plate, but also there's a few different things we can add to it, a few different bits of sassiness, some lovely little patterns that can go around the edges. There's loads of different stuff we can do. Today I'm going to use Posca pens. Again, if you saw my plant pot painting session, then we use these pens. So they're called Posca pens. Posca. I don't know why it's so dark towards my camera. Here we go. Let's go really close. Oh, there we go. So they're called Posca pens. They are water-based paint pens, or chalk pens, some people call them. The way that they work is that they've got pigment colour in them and water, so that when you draw on them, draw with them, they're nice and wet marker pens. And then the water dries and it leaves basically a permanent mark. So they're really good for this sort of thing because they don't wash away. They're really tough. They're really strong colours. The only thing I would say is that they are quite pricey. So if you don't have these, then I would recommend trying the paint. If you've got acrylic paints, you could try painting your design on. One of the reasons we've done such simple designs is so that they're a bit easier to do, but they will stand out more and they'll look better. So if you're a bit handy with a paintbrush and an acrylic, then you could paint your designs on. I've done that before, no problem. You could just use like Sharpies if you wanted. There's nothing wrong with using a Sharpie. They're permanent as well. The difference is your brighter colours might not stand out quite so much because they're marker pens rather than paint pens. Posca pens, I believe, were kind of invented or designed for graffiti artists. So the idea was that they would use these pens for the details of graffiti. So they're supposed to be bright, bold, you can use them on dirty brick walls and they still stand out. So that's kind of the point of them. But now they're very popular. I do sign writing with them. But like I say, they're quite pricey. You're looking at maybe £3 per pen, but you can buy packs. And if you are good at searching on the internet, you can often get discounts on packs. So lots of websites will do sort of 25% off your multi-packs of pens. If you're going to get any Posca pens, I would 100% recommend this particular size. I think this size works because they do all sorts of different sizes. This pen is the best for this sort of decoration. It's best for sign writing, plates, pots, you name it. Because it's like a bullet pen, you can get a lot of detail with it. It's not going to go everywhere. It's not too thick. And the name of the size is PC3M. So I'm going to have a go at pointing this. I don't know if you can see that. Yes. Come on, focus, little guy. Thank you. PC3M is the size of the pen that I'm using today. And as you can see, I've got loads of different colours. I've got a whole box of these guys. They're fantastic. But if you want, if there's only like maybe 3 colours that you really like, you could buy your 3 colours and just use those. Or if you're feeling really fancy, you could buy a great big box of them. But like I say, you can also use paint if you don't want to pay for your Poscas. You could also use Sharpies. You could try any type of pen you want. It's just that some of them might not stick or they might not stand out quite so much, which is why I'm using these today. So I'm going to, now this is going to be a big deal for me because I would usually draw my design in pencil on the plate. But because you guys are so special, I'm going to try and do it straight on with the pen so we're not wasting any time. Oh, it's a bit scary, but we've got our design here, so it's fine. It's going to be totally fine. So I've got to decide what colour I want, and I want it to be contrasting to purple. If you're unsure on colours, I would recommend just looking up a colour wheel. If you look at a colour wheel, you search them on the internet, and you'll have all the colours going around in a circle. If you've got the colour, find the colour of your plate. So say your purple is here. The most contrasting colour is going to be the one that's directly opposite it. So if you think like red, the opposite to red is going to be like a blue or a green. So always think about your contrasts, because if you decide to go for like a pink or a blue on a purple, it's probably not going to stand out quite so much because it's a similar colour, if that makes sense. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just thinking about what colours I've got. I've got some oranges. Here's another little tip for you. So the pigment is like where you get your colour from, right? And some pigments are stronger than others. Oranges and yellows are the least pigmented colours. So if you don't fancy doing layers upon layers of colour, don't use oranges and yellows, which is very annoying because that would probably be the opposite colour to purple. But yes, oranges and yellows, it doesn't matter what you use, paint, pens, whatever, you're always going to have to do more than one layer. So I think I'm going to go with a red. I think I'm going to go with a red sunshine. So I'm just going to go ahead. You have to shake these guys and give them a bit of a press to get the ink out. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw a circle. Oh, it's very scary. There we go. So that's quite contrasting. I think that works quite well. And then I'm just going to colour it in, essentially. And these are really nice to colour in. You might need to do a couple of layers with them just because that's just how it goes. If you're using paints, you might not have to do quite so many layers because these are nice pigmented marker pens. They work quite nicely. So as I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't drawn any of the features. And that's because I'm going to do those afterwards. I want to make sure I've got a lovely, bold, red sunshine first, and I'm going to worry about the eyes and nose and mouth afterwards. And I'm also thinking, now I've done this circle, I'm wondering if maybe I could do the rays of the sun a different colour. There's no reason not to. The other thing that you could do, which is very exciting, is if you've got a very steady hand and you're quite neat, you could make the rays of sunshine out of glitter. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Now, I'm not going to do that today because I'll get in all sorts of messes and I won't be able to show you. I won't be able to show you a lovely thing at the end. I am going to show you some glitter, but I'm not going to do it on the picture itself. So what I would recommend if you do love a bit of glitter is if you pencil out your sunshine rays, or like the edge of your heart, for example, or if you just maybe doing the nose or just the mouth, and you want to draw that with your pencil, and then you want to really fill that in with a nice layer of PVA glue. Wait until all your other stuff's dry first. Don't let anything else be wet. Fill that in with PVA glue, shake your glitter on it, and then just put your plate to one side and leave it for a good while. And then once you think the glue is dry, you want to get all the glitter away, so shake it into a bin. And I would say the best way to get any excess glitter off the edge is to use a makeup brush. So like a nice thick round, in fact, let me show you one so that you can see what they look like. I've got one here. So this is a really good makeup brush. These kind of stubby ones that you use for like blusher. These are great for getting excess glitter away from things. So once your glitter's dry, you kind of have to imagine you're like an archaeologist and you're brushing away the dirt from a bone. That's what working with glitter is like. In a bit to make me feel more clever, pretend I'm an archaeologist when I'm using glitter. So that's a little tip if you fancy using the glitter. I will show you some glitter at the end. So you can, I don't know if you can see in the light, but can you see there's like wet bits still? So this is just taking a little bit of time to dry. So what I'm going to make sure to do is not to do a second layer until all of that's dry. Because what will happen if I try and do a second layer is I'll probably just rub off the wet bits, and that's no fun. So you need to make sure your first layer is dry before you continue. You could always move on to a different section. So you could do the rays, for example, or we could do some patterns. I'm going to show you that now so you know what you're doing. So you might have noticed in these other plates that I've got some different things going around the edges. So we've got some little spirally bits here. We've got a wiggly line, but there's all sorts of different things you could do. This one's got dots and stripes, and they're really easy to do. Super, super easy. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do my outer edge first. And again, we want a nice contrasting colour. I think I'm going to go with this lovely sort of mint green colour. Make sure the pen's working first. And then please excuse the lovely black line that I've created from drawing around my plate with a Sharpie. I will paint over that later. So again, we've got to assume the cake decorating spinner position. Spread your hands out nice and wide and nice firm grip on the bottom of your plate. If you've got a smaller plate, this will be much easier. But you can do this super quick. So I'm going to do a series of spirals for this one. So I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And I'm just going to go spiraling all the way around the edge. And I'm going to shift as I go. And you can kind of stop as you go as well. You don't have to do it all in one go. And the great thing about these Posca pens is that with this sort of detail, where you're just doing lines, you probably won't have to go over it again. If you've chosen a nice contrasting colour, I go all the way around. Oh my goodness, how is it 20 to 12 already? So that's one thing you can do. You've got your spirals there. I'm not going to finish that because you get the idea. I'm going to get the pink plate just so I can show you some of the designs. Your stripes are super easy. So this is why I have done two colours on my plate, because you can then get two patterns out of it and you can use lots of different colours and it will just stand out a bit more. So you've got stripes. So what's going to go? Let's try. Oh, what colour? I think I'm going to go with a dark blue. So indecisive. Right, so I've checked that my pen works and this one's really easy. I'm just doing stripes. Now, these do not have to be neat. And in fact, the unneater they are, I think the more fun they look. They don't have to be the same width apart. They can be at slight angles. You're just mark making at this point, and it will just add to the overall effect. So we've got some stripes there. You could also do spots, are really easy. So I'll do the spots along the top edge here. They always work quite nicely. So we've gone blue. Maybe we'll do this mint green again so it stands out. So if you're not planning on putting glitter on the top of your plate, then you can just do dots. Look how easy this is. We're just going dot, 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 dot real quickly. All the way around, super easy. You'll only have to do that once. And so then you've got your stripes and dots. And then also you could do another spiral around here. You could do zigzag. So let's do a zigzag. I'll tell you what, we'll do a zigzag around this edge here, just while this sunshine is drying. I'll do that very quickly, and then we'll continue decorating our sunshine. So, let's maybe try this lemon yellow. It's quite nice. So we'll do this edge here. Now this is tricky. You've got to kind of point it like this, and that's why the more simple the design, the easier it is to do, and it will still look great. Oh, that lemon looks lovely on that pink. I really like that. So zigzag, super easy. And you could even just do a line. So I'll show you that on the bottom edge. So this bottom edge is purple. So I will do, maybe I'll do a red, just like I've done the sun. So simple as just drawing one line all the way around. It's just something, isn't it? We're just thinking about all those little details where there's a, bit of space or a plain colour. If we add a pattern to it, it'll just make it nice and extra. So even just a stripe around the middle works quite nicely. So you've got stripes, vertical stripes, dots, zigzags, and spirals. So if you think of it like you want your bottom one, your top one, your very top if you're not glittering, and your inside one. That's what you need your patterns for. And I've given you 4 patterns there. Have a nice stripe, vertical stripe, spots. Oh, I'm giving you 5. You've got 5 to choose from. 5 patterns, super easy. Okay, so we're going to move back onto our lovely sunshine. Just move that out of the way. So very quickly, I'm going to colour this guy in again. Now what you can do if you're feeling really fancy is you can go in the opposite direction of the way you went before, just for a bit of extra coverage. You can see I'm kind of like treating the pen as if it's like a paintbrush almost, doing lots of strokes. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting all of it covered. I'm just filling this in nicely. Now, do we think we want the sunshine to have different coloured rays? I'm kind of thinking I really enjoyed that yellow on the pink, so I might do yellow sun rays. Yellow and purple are nice and contrasting. Nearly done. Just trying to make sure I get this bit covered so that I can show you the face. Okay, so just while that's drying, that's looking good. I'm going to start my sun rays. And again, you can do pencil first, so you can pencil all of this in before you colour in. I'm just going for it because you can't really see my... Oh yeah, that looks great. How bright that is, that's really vibrant. Now, at this point, I'm thinking if my zigzags work out quite nicely, one of the options is to not colour them in at all. So I might do that just for time purposes, but also it looks quite nice. So there's a few options here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll do my little zigzags, my little sun rays. we go. Now I think this one's going to be a little bit smaller now, so apologies for that. Right, and I'm finishing my zigzag. Okay, right, we're back in the game. So can you see that I have just outlined those sun rays? I haven't coloured them in like I may have done in other plates. So you've got a couple of options. You can colour in those sun rays, or you can leave them like that. And then what you could also do, just to add to it, is you could maybe add a pattern on the inside. So for example, I might try pink now, and I'm just going to do some little dots inside just for something a bit extra. Bub, 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 like that. So you should be able to see, oh look, it's lovely. So that's an alternative. If you don't fancy doing too much colouring in, you could just do outlines and then just put the decoration in afterwards. So the red's still drying a little bit, so I can't do the face just yet. But what I can do is I might do my pattern here real quick. So we've done a spiral on that side, so I might do, what should I do? I might do, I don't want to do a zigzag because I've got zigzags as the sun rays, so I might do a wavy line. Let's do a wavy line. I'm going to use this lovely dark blue again because I really like this one. So again, we want to assume the position. And then I'm going to do waves. Now this is quite tough if you've not got a steady hand. So you really have to think about where your hand's anchoring. I'm kind of trying to hold it on the plate slightly. Still a little bit shaky. We're going all the way around. Now, if you do shake, like I currently am, because I've just had a cup of coffee, is you can just go over it again. So as long as you get that first line in, it's kind of the hardest bit, is doing your first mark. And then once you've finished, you can go over again, but be a lot neater with it and just cover up any of those waves. That's good. It's working nicely. It's looking good. If you can see it. Oh yeah, that's looking good. That's nice. So I'm going to do my waves all the way across and hopefully meet at the end there. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. So we've got our waves all the way around the edge. Perfect. Now at this point, I would say the sunshine is just about dry. So I've got enough time to put the face on, but just, I don't want to ruin it. So I'm going to do the lettering next. So we've gone with I'm a Ray of Sunshine, haven't we? So we can now, this is a really good point to look at our example piece and make sure that the writing is at the right angle. And we're going to think about contrasting colours again. So what colour haven't we used? We haven't used a pink. I don't know if that's going to stand out enough on the purple. If you're unsure of your contrasting colours, one of the things you can do is, when we spoke about our patterns before, is just as a tester, if you're not too worried about it, you could try, so for example, you could try this pink to do the pattern around here. If it doesn't stand out too much, it doesn't matter, you've still got a lovely pattern, but you know maybe not to use the pink for your writing because it's not going to stand out as much. I would always recommend, if you've got quite a vibrant colour on your plate, then a darker colour works well as writing. Same goes as this is the opposite way around. So you've got quite a dark colour for your base, and I've used a bright pink for the writing, and it stands out a bit more. So I think I want a darker colour. So what I'm going to use is, I think I'm going to use this sort of khaki green. I probably should have used the blue to do the writing, but I was too excited. So I'm going to use this kind of khaki green colour, nice dark green. And we want to make sure we're fitting it the same way. So I'm almost placing the plate next to the picture so I can get it right. And it's going sort of here. Let's start with here. And I'm just going for it. I would definitely recommend penciling this in if you're doing this for real. Because the lettering is the hardest bit to get right. But I'm just going for it. Okay, I think I might have managed that okay, if you can see. The sun's just gone in, so the light's gone a bit funny. I'm just going to turn my light on and see if it helps you see my plate better. because the weather just doesn't know what it wants to do this week, does it? We had such a lovely Easter Sunday, and then yesterday was all the rain. So that works quite nicely. And then I'm going to add the sunshine bit in. So again, I'm going to kind of sit it at the same level, and I'm going to start it about here. And like I say, if you do this in pencil, you won't have any of the problems I'm having, because you'll be able to rub it out if it goes wrong. So I think that's going to sit a little bit far up, but I'm going to make that a bit smaller. Oh, that works nicely. Look at that, perfect. So that's looking good. I would always recommend doing a second layer of writing, just so it stands out a bit more. Again, you can, once it's dry, you can do it again. You can be much neater, not as much wobbling. You can take your time with it. You just want to get it down first of all and be really confident with it, because the marks will look much better. So now we're going to do our sunshine face. Excuse me. So we need to think about our contrasts again. I think we're going to go with, oh, the options. This is the bit I really like. I really like being able to choose the different colours. So I think for the eyes, I'm going to go with that blue that I did around the edge, because that will contrast with the red really nicely. So I want it to be central, so we don't want wonky eyes to the writing. And again, you can pencil all of this in, so it doesn't matter if it goes a bit wrong, but I'm just going for it. Feeling confident. Now, at this point, the red isn't, it's like dry, but it's still a bit like tacky. So you might find, if that happens to you, you might find the other colour kind of dragging a little bit. Give it a shake, give it a squeeze, get some of the ink out a bit more, and that usually does the trick. So those eyes are looking okay. I'm just going to stick those eyelashes on, and then I'll show you a bit of a closer up. So that one of the hardest things about doing the details is leaning on the plate, because it sits down from, it's got a rim, so you're kind of like going in, which is quite difficult, but you kind of get the hang of it. Okay, so we've got the eyes, and then we're going to think, what colours are we going to do? Maybe a darker purple would be nice. I think I'm going to go dark purple for the nose. So again, nice big straight line, and I can colour that in. That's nice and contrasting. Lovely. We've got a bit of a wonky nose, but I quite like that. And actually at this point, because I've sat the eyes quite low down, I could even give some little eyebrows at this point. Hey, happy little eyebrows. And then we want a nice contrasting colour for the mouth. I think I'm going to go with that lovely mint green we saw earlier. Nice big wonky smile. Lovely. That's exactly what we need. And colour that in. Again, I'm sort of doing paint strokes almost to make sure I get the colour in. Give it a bit of a press if you need a bit more ink to come out. Beautiful. Oh, we're getting there, guys. We are getting there. Oh, beautiful. Lovely smiley face. And I might just stick a couple of pink hearts, because why not? Put some little hearts on the cheek, because I'm a ray of sunshine. Very nice. So we've got our design. Oh, lovely. So we've done that. We've done our design. Perfect, perfect. All that's left is to do a bit of glitter if we so wish. I will finish my patterns on the edge, but I'm just going to show you the glitter really quickly before we go. Oh yeah, that looks really nice. I'm a ray of sunshine. So I'm going to move this design out of the way so I can show you. And I have just got some very, very bog standard PVA glue, not mucking about. If you want to be really careful, what you can do is you can pour your PVA glue into a pot. That's what I would recommend, just for neatness. But I'm just going to actually, because of time constraints, and I just want to show you how to do the glittering bit, I'm just going to pour it on. So you can do this at your own peril, but I'm just going to do a very thin line of glue all the way around the edge. Oh, this is scary. I don't want it to go over the edge because we don't want glitter sticking to anywhere else. Again, we want to imagine the glitter like one of the colours. We want it to be bold. We want it to stand out. So we don't want any fading. We want it to be really have nice straight edges. Okay, we're nearly done. Ooh. Right, I've got myself another paintbrush. Whatever paintbrush is fine. And I'm going to paint in, and I'm going to make sure there's no paint on the edges. I'm just going to rub that off with my finger, but you could use tissue if you so wish. I'm not being super neat with this, and we've got drips and stuff. It's because I'm rushing. But you kind of get the idea if you're giving yourself a bit of time. Nice and neat here. It's a bit like ice cream, isn't it, with all this dripping? Let's do it really quick. So make sure you've got nice coverage. Move that over there. Just wipe away these drips. Oh, goodness me. What am I like? Okay, that's fine. As long as you're happy with the glue, that's the main thing. You don't want glue where you don't want it to be. So once you've done that, you're good. Now I've got one of these glitter shakers. You can get these from most sort of places that come with a few different colours. I'd recommend this that sort of have the little shaky holes over like a big tub, because otherwise you're going to have loads of excess glitter. And I think I'm going to go with like maybe we'll go with a green, or this kind of teal colour is quite nice. Now, glitter's going to go everywhere. It's going to go all inside the bowl, and that's fine because we're going to rub it out. We're going to shake it off later. But I'm going to try and get as little excess as possible. So I'm aiming for the glue and hoping for the best. But the main thing about this is once you've applied your glitter, once you've shaked your glitter everywhere, is to just leave it be. Don't go moving it around, because if you move it around, then all this glitter is going to come off and you might end up with patches, and we don't want patches. We want it to be nice and clear, a nice glitter rim all the way around. So you can see I'm sort of like bringing it back to get the glitter out of the shaker. So do this somewhere that you don't mind getting glitter, because you'll get loads of it everywhere. If you're feeling really good, you could then wipe the glitter back into the pot if you so wish. But yes, the main point is not to move it around at this point. You want that glue to dry so all of the glitter stays in place. And when you do come to moving all the excess glitter, you've got loads left on the rim. Okay, I think we're about done. My arm's aching, so I think I've done enough glitter. If you've got any little edgy bits, now would be the time to wipe them. If you've got any drips, and then maybe go over any bits that you can see. Okay, so I will show you this, but I'll try not to move it too much. You see I've got really nice coverage of glitter. You can't see any purple showing through. It's almost acted like another colour, another pen. And like I say, you don't have to use the glitter if you don't want to. You could just use pens, but it's a nice extra bit, and you can apply glitter to wherever you like. So once that's done, once that's dry, leave that for a few hours. And then, like I say, the makeup brush, which I dropped on the floor, this guy, pretend you're an archaeologist when you're wiping the excess glitter away. The point of this and wiping all of the glitter away is to then varnish your plate. Now, you don't have to varnish your plate. It's just extra protection. So there's a few different options out there. I'm just trying to see if I've got one here. Yes. So I would personally recommend a gloss varnish, something like this. Sorry, I'm wobbling. Gloss varnish like this. Now, I mentioned earlier about getting cheap things from cheap garden centres. If you go on somewhere like Amazon, or if you go somewhere like B&Q, then a can of gloss varnish will take you back about £10, £8 to £10, I would say. In the Cherry Lane Garden Centre, which is close to me, which I'm fairly sure is a chain, this guy was £3. It's got really good coverage. It's a clear gloss varnish. There's no difference in this to any varnish I've ever used before. You can buy matte varnish, which doesn't have a glossy effect at the end. If you can see on these ones I've done before, they've got a kind of shiny finish to them, and that's because I've varnished them. So it's totally up to you what you want to use, but this is just so these are a bit more protected. They're not going to chip. They're basically weatherproof. I mean, I say basically weatherproof. You could put them in the garden. They will weather over time, sure, but so does everything. But they'll last, you know, forever indoors. I also need to point out these are not to be used for eating off, obviously. Please don't eat off your decorative plates. They're for decorative purposes only. And why would you want to eat off such a beautiful plate? This is just a lovely gift to give to someone. You could put trinkets in it. I have mine on show sticking upwards. You could also, if you know how, you could use those sticky adhesive hooks to stick on the back so that you could put them on the wall. But yes, don't eat off them. Don't wash them in the dishwasher. They will be wiped clean, and they will be far more wiped clean if you use a gloss varnish or a matte varnish afterwards. That's what these are for. They're for protection. So like I say, if you're kind of thinking about your varnish and you're going to B&Q and you see a can for £10 and you think that's ridiculous, it is ridiculous. You might just need to shop around. And if you have a look in local shops, you might find them for much cheaper, like I have. As I say, if you've got a Cherry Lane garden centre near you, then these are, well, £2.99 actually, not £3, £2.99. And they're perfect. So once this guy's dry, you can wipe off the glitter. And then when you know everything's dry, you can give this a good spray outside. Only outside, please wear a mask, and then leave that to dry. You can bring it indoors, but you need it to dry maybe overnight just to make sure it's super dry, and then you're good to go. I think that's everything. So we've made ourselves a lovely decorative plate today. We've added some glitter, we've added lots of patterns, and you can do whatever you so wish. We've got our 3 designs. You can either do a sunshine or a heart or a shooting star. You know how to use the contrasting colours. You've got loads of different materials you can use, and you can get glue and glitter all over your fingers at the end if you so wish. So that's all for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm just going to kind of place these plates so that you can see them a bit better before I go, just as a parting image for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I've had such a lovely morning. Enjoy your afternoons, continue eating lots of chocolate, and I'll hopefully see you all again soon. I've got some other crafts coming up. Keep your eyes out. I'll be back. I've got loads to show you. I'm sure most of it will involve glitter. It usually does. So thank you very much. I'll see you soon. I've been Rosie. Bye.